I want to talk about Max Verstappen's chances of winning this championship. This race was a massive exclamation mark to McLaren, a massive warning to both Oscar Piastri, McLaren, Lando Norris. Sort your stuff out, because this guy is coming. David Croft compared it quite nicely, I think, to the T-Rex at Jurassic Park. Seeing him in your mirrors, he's coming, but in this case, he's faster than you, and you're in trouble. I liken it to more like the Terminator from Terminator 1. When Reese goes, he won't stop, he'll stop at nothing until he does it. And I think Verstappen will stop at nothing until it's mathematically impossible for him to win that championship. And McLaren should very, very much be worried. Even Verstappen has come out. He said, the chance is there. We just need to try and deliver these kind of weekends now until the end. Impossible? No. Difficult? Very. Probable? I'm not sure. But the way McLaren are going at the moment, you got to say there's maybe at least a 25% chance that that's going to be the case. So I mean, he's won the last 4 races, hasn't he? And again, I digress. 346 points for Piastri, 332 for Lando Norris, and 306 for Verstappen. 40 points for the top 3. I mean, we're going to have a look in a minute at all of those races still to go, which I think makes for really interesting reading as well. So, I mean, when you look at Max Verstappen, he's made up 64 points in just 4 races. 64 points in 4 races. And now just trails the championship by only 40. And there's more points available. Imagine that. 64 points in just 4 races. You've got to wonder, what on earth are McLaren doing? It's just absolutely mental. So at Zandvoort, when you look at it, he was 104 points behind Oscar Piastri. And then Verstappen cleared his championship deficit by 64 points since the Dutch Grand Prix. He's gained 64 points, just leaving 40 points between him and Piastri. That, my friends, is really scary stuff. That is really scary stats that Red Bull have been able to do. They've, funny enough, since Christian Horner left, they've sorted their car out. They've sorted the aerodynamic imbalance. And to one of them, I thought, oh my gosh, without Newey, they're completely screwed. Apparently not, because they've sorted it out. And also, this is most certainly helping Max Verstappen wanting to stay at Red Bull, albeit the big caveat for next year. But still, if he wins this title, it's going to be a comeback of epic proportion that's going to be written about everywhere. It really is. And as much as Max Verstappen will be epically remembered, I think McLaren will be absolutely shamed upon by its fans and F1 in general, I imagine. It's kind of, if you're a McLaren fan, I love all teams. I love McLaren as well. I love him since David Coulthard, Mika Häkkinen, Senna Prost, and you have to wonder, surely you can't lose this. You're still in control, sort of. I don't get it. I mean, their car in Singapore, and I think in this race, potentially had enough pace to win the race. We'll get into that in a bit when we look at the F1. When we look at the F1 data. But once again, it's Max Verstappen winning races. I'm not saying winning races that he necessarily shouldn't. You can make a case for it. But what he is doing is maximising every, no pun intended, every opportunity where McLaren are repeatedly dropping that ball. I mean, for the chances for that 5th championship, yeah, for sure the chances there. Obviously, as we've just said, he just needs to try and deliver those. Deliver that every weekend. Now, Max also, let's be honest, he is a very talented guy, but he needs the car. As we've seen, when the car is not there, you're not a miracle worker, Max. No one is. He can't do it. But when the car is there and has a chance of winning, he's going to be absolutely on it like a car bonnet. Now, this is the implications of potentially Max Verstappen winning the title. So, 306 points. Currently, 346 and 332. And we've got the Brazil sprint race. So he does need to win. This confirms he needs to win every race. Like, for example, Mexico, Brazil sprint, Brazil race, Vegas, Qatar sprint, Qatar race, Abu Dhabi, and final points 447. And what it does need, though, is assuming Oscar Piastri needs to finish outside the top 2 just once. And they've got it, obviously, here in Vegas. So it's not quite within Max's yet to win every race, with Oscar Piastri finishing second. But still, it is, I mean, that is not completely unrealistic when you look at 2023, and this is assuming Max is going to win those races. But even if he doesn't, if, for example, Lando Norris wins a race, Oscar Piastri finishes like 9th, and Max finishes 2nd, that's still a massive point haul. So it is still very, very possible. But what's interesting is, I think if Max outscores Oscar again, significantly, and Oscar's not 2nd, then the ball, Max wins Mexico, and Oscar, for example, finishes 4th, then it is, the whole thing does then become within Max Verstappen's hands to win that championship. It absolutely does. But there are a few buts, and we'll get into that but in just a second. But Max Verstappen, it says here, now has the same amount of wins as Lando Norris does in 2025. Think of that, if you will. That's, well done. Fair play, Mr. Verstappen. Now, this is the calendar. I'd like to take a look at it because we've got Mexico next. Mexico is very much a Red Bull circuit. They've been very good there. The Honda engine really likes it there. So I think McLaren are going to be very worried. Last year, arguably, it was Lando Norris potentially had the pace to win it, but there was shenanigans between him and Max, which caused Max to get lots of penalty points, which are, funny enough, coming off, I think, on the 27th of October. But Mexico. So after Mexico, you got Brazil, which in the drive, McLaren looked very good last year. And I think Mexico, Red Bull, Brazil, potentially McLaren just by a hair. But if it is where it's really anybody's ball game, this is the race where I think the championship became absolutely untenable for sadly for Lando Norris, as he really dropped the ball in the way. And Max Verstappen came from so far back to win it. It was, I mean, once again, almost handed on a plate. This massive chunk of points that McLaren could have done last year, and in the way it didn't really happen. But yeah, we've got Brazil. Round 21, I think McLaren might have the advantage there. Now, going into the United States, Las Vegas, there's very much, I think, lots of straights. I think Red Bull, kind of like a bit like Baku, I think Red Bull could have the advantage there. Going into Qatar, I think it's going to be very close. I think because of all those corners, it'll be close. Maybe Red Bull or McLaren by a hair. It'll be really close. I think the next two, round 23 and 24, are going to be really close. But I think Brazil is the one where McLaren, I think, definitely need to pull out all the stops to win. Now, there's this rumour that they're going to have a new floor, and the rumour was they didn't debut the new floor in Austin simply because it's a Sprint Grand Prix weekend. There's not those 3 practice sessions, or at least the first 2 practice sessions on the Friday to rely upon and to get all that data they're going to need to see if the floor is any better. So that is I believe, an upgrade that is potentially coming from McLaren in Mexico when they do obviously have those 3 practice sessions. So it's going to be interesting. If that floor improves a lot, maybe they're going to have the advantage. That is how close we're talking. And when you look at the whole season, the season as a whole, you look at Canada, Singapore, and Mercedes were great. And then we go to Austin, and Mercedes are really, really struggling. This is how such a knife edge that all the car setups are on, which, outside of obviously Red Bull dominating this rule set, these cars have not been nice. Let's be honest. I'm really glad we're getting rid of them. I'm just hoping the next cars are not going to be